Welcome, everyone. Today we're doing a deep dive into shadow work. It's really picked up steam lately, hasn't it? Seems like people are looking for something deeper than just quick fixes.
Yeah, they're after real psychological integration. So our mission today is pretty practical. We want to give you a way in. We'll explore using specific, targeted prompts to get to know those, well, hidden or unconscious bits of yourself, the part maybe you've pushed away or just never really noticed. The big goal here is integration, turning those triggers from things that trip you up into doorways for actual growth.
That's a great way to put it. Integration is absolutely central. What we're really talking about is a kind of psychological digging, bringing the unconscious stuff into the light. Because that's the only path to genuinely healing those different wounded parts inside. If they stay in the dark, well, they kind of run the show, don't they?
They really do. Okay, so let's unpack the history a bit first. This idea of the shadow. It sounds powerful, maybe even a bit intimidating. Where did it actually come from? All right, well, you really have to start with Carl Jung. He was this Swiss psychoanalyst who first coined the term shadow. He described it as like a container in our psyche. It holds all the traits, the desires, the impulses that we consciously or unconsciously reject about ourselves. It's our personal unconscious kind of standing opposite to our conscious ego.
Okay, Jung.
Got it. And what often throws people is that it's not just, the bad stuff like anger or jealousy or selfishness. The shadow also holds positive qualities, things we're actually afraid to own or express.
Wait, positive qualities? That seems backward. Like what?
Yeah, things like maybe your natural creativity or your authentic personal power. Even vulnerability. We might push those into the shadow because somewhere along the line, maybe in childhood, we were shamed for showing them.
That's wow. So why would someone repress, say, their own power? That feels like something you'd want.
Well, think about it. Maybe as a kid, you were always told, don't be too loud or don't show off, right? So you learned deep down that expressing your full self, your power, might lead to rejection or conflict. So that bright, shiny part of you gets shoved into the shadow as a way to stay safe, to belong.
Okay. So if you find yourself constantly undermining your own success later in life?
That could absolutely be a shadow part, yeah.
Yeah.
A fear of your own power showing up because it once felt dangerous.
And what happens if we just ignore all this shadow stuff? Does it just, sit quietly in the corner?
No, unfortunately not. It doesn't just vanish. It actively leaks out. It influences your life, whether you acknowledge it or not. It often shows up through projection. That's classic. You start seeing your own denied qualities in other people. Or it comes out in really strong reactive emotions or just unconscious behaviors you don't understand.
Can you give an example of that projection?
Sure. Like if you've completely denied your own anger, maybe you learned it wasn't okay to be angry, you might find yourself constantly criticizing other people for being too aggressive. Or maybe you feel totally overwhelmed, like disproportionately triggered just when someone raises their voice. You're reacting to your own disowned anger that you see in them.
Right, I can see that logic. But admitting that the thing annoying you in someone else is actually in you, that sounds incredibly difficult. How do people get past that resistance?
It really takes a shift, doesn't it? Moving from automatically blaming others to getting curious about your own reaction. And this is where the modern take on this comes in really handy, moving beyond just classical Jungian ideas into things like parts work.
Parts work, how does that change things?
Well, in fields like internal family systems, IFS therapy is a big one. These hidden aspects aren't seen as this one single scary shadow. They're thought of more as shadow parts. The core idea is that your mind isn't just one unified thing. It's more like an inner family, a collection of different parts. And each part might carry old wounds or specific beliefs or have a job it's trying to do, often protectively.
Okay, so instead of thinking I am angry, it's more like, a part of me is feeling really angry right now because it feels threatened.
Exactly. That little shift in language makes a huge difference. So when you feel stuck in those old frustrating patterns or you get massively triggered by something, it's often because one of these specific parts, maybe one carrying an old wound or one trying to protect you in an outdated way, has gotten activated and basically hijacked your system. Shadow work through this parts work lens is all about learning to meet these parts with compassion, recognizing they're usually trying to help, even if their methods are causing problems now.
That really reframes the whole thing. Okay, so let's get practical. If these hidden parts are kind of running the show sometimes, what's the clearest signal that one has been activated? How do we spot them?
The clearest sign. It's the trigger. A trigger is basically any strong emotional reaction, panic, rage, deep shame, whatever that feels, way bigger than the actual situation seems to warrant. That feeling of overreaction is like a bright neon sign. It's pointing directly towards some underlying unconscious belief, thought, or emotion that's being held by one of those inner parts.
Okay, so the disproportionate reaction is key.
Absolutely. We had some great examples in the source material. Like, imagine someone doesn't text you back right away. If you feel this sudden, overwhelming wave of abandonment panic, well, that intense panic is rarely just about the text message itself, right? It's far more likely pointing straight to a shadow part inside you that's still carrying the heavy burden of maybe a childhood memory, a time you felt left alone or unsafe.
Or that workplace example, someone interrupts you in a meeting, and instead of just being annoyed, you feel this flood of absolute rage.
Exactly. That intense rage is often a shadow part jumping in. It might be carrying the weight of years and years of feeling unheard or dismissed or like you didn't matter. So it's not really about that one interruption. It's about the accumulated pain of feeling silenced. Same if, say, a small suggestion from your partner makes you feel utterly criticized or worthless. That points right to the wounds your shadow parts are holding on to.
Okay, so triggers are the doorway. And these prompts we're talking about are like the keys to unlock what's behind that door. Let's dive into how to use them. The sources mention two critical areas to start: beliefs and emotions.
Yes, beliefs are absolutely foundational. They're like the unconscious rule book you live by. Often you inherit them from family, culture. You don't even know they're there. And you really have to question them to find any freedom. If you don't know the rule you're following, you can't choose to break it, can you?
Makes sense. So example prompts here would focus on things like self-worth, like asking yourself, what beliefs do I hold about myself that seem to cause me pain over and over? Or maybe, what's the hidden rule I follow about whether I'm lovable or worthy or good enough?
Precisely. And the real power clicks in when you actually identify one of those rules. Like, you might uncover a belief, I have to be perfect, otherwise no one will accept me. Once you see that rule clearly, you suddenly understand why you feel so much pressure all the time, why authentic connection feels so hard, the prompt drags that rule out of the shadow so you can actually look at it, maybe even change it.
Okay, beliefs are the rules. What about the second area, emotions?
Right, emotions. So often we treat them like problems to get rid of. But in shadow work, emotions are seen as powerful guides. They're like energy signals showing you exactly where something is stuck, where a wounded part needs your attention. So the work here isn't about resisting those difficult feelings, but meeting them with, let's call it radical curiosity.
Radical curiosity. I like that. It shifts everything, doesn't it? So instead of judging yourself for feeling jealous, you use it. Like asking, when I feel that sharp pang of jealousy about someone else's success, what desire inside me is actually trying to get my attention?
Exactly. You might find that underneath the jealousy is actually this powerful longing. Maybe a part of you is desperate to express your own creativity or to chase a passion you've been ignoring because you're afraid. Suddenly, that jealousy isn't just an ugly feeling. It transforms into a guide, pointing you towards something you need, something fulfilling. It becomes information, not an enemy.
This is really helpful. Now, to give people a kind of map for this inner territory, the sources organize shadow work into 5 main themes, or pillars. Seems important not to rush through these.
Absolutely. These categories really help structure your exploration. They ensure you're looking at different facets of your inner world, not just, going in circles around the same old issue.
Okay, what's the first one?
Pillar 1 is childhood and the inner child. This is the bedrock, really. It's about looking at unresolved memories, finding those younger parts of yourself that still feel unseen or unheard. And it's about understanding the protective behaviors you developed way back then, maybe after feeling abandoned or ashamed. How are those still running today?
Right. Everything starts there. So a prompt might be something like, which parts of me learned it wasn't safe to be vulnerable? And what are they still afraid will happen if I show vulnerability now?
Perfect example. If you struggle with, say, chronic people-pleasing, this pillar prompts you to connect with the part of you that decided, long ago, that fitting in was the only way to be safe.
Okay, so from the past foundations to maybe the present-day impact. Category 2 is beliefs and self-image. This sounds like where the inner critic hangs out.
That's exactly it. This is where you directly confront those limiting rules we talked about. The beliefs that whisper you're not enough, the fear of failure that keeps you stuck. You identify those specific critical voices in your head, and, importantly, you get curious about what they're trying to protect you from. Often it's the pain of judgment or rejection. A key question here might be, what do I secretly believe I don't deserve, and where did I pick up that belief?
That's deep. Okay, so we have past origins, internal rules, Category 3 must be about the feelings themselves, emotions and triggers.
And you got it. This is about the emotional energy. It focuses on the feelings you tend to avoid, maybe the anger you swallow or the sadness you won't let yourself feel. You ask, what is this anger actually guarding? What's underneath the sadness? How do specific parts react when they feel rejected or invalidated? A good prompt to map this is, when I feel that intense jealousy or rage or panic, what past experiences does this feeling connect back to? You're looking for the emotional thread.
And category 4 brings other people into it, which is crucial. Relationships and projection, the mirror as it's called.
Yes, because so much of our shadow stuff plays out in how we relate to others. This focuses on those repeating patterns in relationships, maybe codependency, or getting defensive really easily, or judging people harshly. It brings back that Jungian idea of projection, those traits in others that intensely trigger you. They're often reflecting something about an inner part of you that needs attention. So you ask, what patterns keep showing up in my relationships, and which of my inner parts seem to be driving those patterns?
Okay, that covers a lot of ground. And the final pillar sounds like the goal. Growth, integration, and compassion, the path forward.
This is the active healing phase, moving towards wholeness. It's about deliberately listening to those misunderstood parts, offering comfort where there's trauma, reclaiming positive strengths you've ignored like that creativity we mentioned. And it's about supporting the parts of you that want to grow or take risks but are held back by fear. It shifts from just identifying the issues to proactively building inner kindness and cooperation. A really key question here is, how can I respond to my inner critic with genuine kindness instead of just fighting it or believing it?
That provides such a clear roadmap. So we have the why and the what. Now let's talk about the how. If someone's ready to sit down tonight with a notebook and one of these prompts, how should they actually approach it to make it effective and also, frankly, safe?
Great question. The mindset you bring is crucial. It needs to be one of patience, first and foremost, genuine curiosity, and a real willingness to just sit with whatever comes up without censoring it or judging it. You're trying to create a safe internal space, like saying to these hidden parts, it's okay for you to speak now. I'm listening without judgment.
Okay, patience, curiosity, no judgment. And what are the practical methods?
The sources highlighted 3 main ways. First, and probably most common, is journaling. Just setting aside some time, picking a prompt, and writing freely whatever comes to mind. Let all the thoughts, feelings, even conflicting voices just spill onto the page. Don't worry if it makes sense, just get it out.
Just let it flow. Okay, What's the second method?
Meditation. This is a bit quieter. You might take a single prompt and just sit with it. Notice the thoughts that arise, any images that come up, and especially any sensations in your body. You might notice that fearful part actually feels like a tightness in your chest or a knot in your stomach.
Yeah.
In meditation, you just observe it with that curiosity rather than immediately trying to make it go away.
Okay, observing thoughts and body sensations. And the third?
The third is dialogue, which really shines in that parts work approach we discussed. Once you identify a part, maybe through journaling or meditation, like, oh, there's my inner critic, or there's that scared kid part, you actually engage it in a conversation. You ask it questions gently, like, why are you feeling this way? What are you trying to protect me from? What do you need from me right now?
And the crucial part of that dialogue is how you respond to the part's answers, right? You're not trying to argue with it or shut it down.
Exactly. You respond from what IFS calls your core self, that calm, compassionate, confident center within you. You offer reassurance, understanding, cooperation. So if that fearful part says, don't take that risk, you'll fail, and everyone will laugh, you might respond internally. I hear how scared you are of being judged. Thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I'm stronger now. I can handle potential failure, and I won't abandon you even if things get tough. It builds internal trust.
And this dialogue, this checking in with parts, it isn't just for formal sessions. You can bring this into everyday life, right? Like when a trigger hits.
Absolutely. That's where it becomes a living practice. The next time you feel that intense reaction flare up in a conversation or situation, you try to catch yourself before you react automatically. You take a breath, pause, and ask internally. Okay, wait, which part of me just got activated? What is it feeling right now? What does it need me to know?
That pause changes everything. It creates space between the trigger and your response.
It really does. It pulls you out of that automatic, often destructive pattern and brings conscious choice back online. But, and this is important, remember this work can stir things up. Be gentle with yourself. And it's really vital, especially after a deeper session, to close your practice intentionally. Do something grounding. Feel your feet on the floor. Take some deep breaths. Maybe use a positive affirmation. Signal to those shadow parts you've just met that they're safe now, anchored in the present.
Good advice. Grounding is key.
Ultimately, what we're saying is shadow work isn't about trying to fix something you think is broken or bad about you. It's really about welcoming home the parts that have been hidden or exiled. Every intense emotion, every trigger, it's carried by a part of you that deep down is just longing for your attention, your understanding, and your acceptance.
So when you use these prompts, these approaches, your triggers really can become teachers. Those hidden parts can shift from being saboteurs to being allies. And the result is hopefully more resilience, more wholeness.
So maybe the invitation for you listening is this. The next time you feel triggered, really intensely reactive, just try to pause, even for a second, and ask yourself that one question. Which part of me is speaking right now, and how can I meet it with just a little bit of non-judgmental compassion?
And in that single moment of compassionate curiosity, the often challenging work of exploring the shadow transforms into, well, a profound act of self-healing, maybe even self-love. Thanks for diving deep with us today.